Okay. Shall we begin?
Is it time? It's 57, yeah.
57. I thought we had more people.
It was.
Or, well, I guess that's online. Okay.
Right,
All right.
okay. So. What are we doing? 3, right? Or no? I thought 3 and 4. I was supposed to bring that paper. Okay. No, I should have it. Yeah, they were, I think this was in my binder and this one from yesterday. Focus area 3. This is focus area 4. Okay, and that's focus area 4. I'm gonna go grab mine. Go ahead. I
wonder if I actually have
This one, yeah, it would be in the, look in the divider.
Yeah,
And then look towards the back.
it's towards the back of yesterday's.
Yeah.
My binders.
Oh, there you go. There.
Yeah, and then it was towards the this one right
Is
here.
that it right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, like a big fold them up. Thanks, Ben.
The only problem is I don't remember what we do next.
Yeah, me too. I'm like,
We,
I just have streamlined, actionable, and focused.
oh, you wrote down that SFA. Okay, huh? That's good.
Think this is the step where I think refine, right? Where we talk about this recommendation is necessary because, and then implementation of this recommendation is intended to do something.
Oh, yeah, that's why Juliet said we'll put each recommendation on one slide.
I think first we kind of go through and determine if we can consolidate or if all of these are necessary.
Thank you so much for volunteering to be the scribe, Devin. That's really helpful.
Sorry, my audio is cutting out. Sorry.
Wait, what page are we on?
We're on this one.
Here,
Okay.
sorry, 3, yeah?
Yep. 2B-1. And lost split. You didn't have it on that. So where's that? Where's the?
Where do I find
Is this the page that you had up?
That's the one he had.
Okay.
Right. Wait, focus area. Are we focus area 4? Okay, developing consolidated. Well, I have 3. No, 3.
This one with the.
3, and then it's B, improve candidate support.
That's
the wrong
what
one. Yes.
So it's
I'll just look up on this thing.
2B-10.
And I want to put it out there as one of the things that I really feel strongly about, that we include an orientation process similar to the clinical practice for candidate support and putting it in the program standards. Because right now in the program standards, there is a sentence that says that programs have to have an orientation for clinical practice, but not one for TPA. And I think they should have an orientation process for TPA as well. So that's one of the things.
So that would be like a recommendation 7?
Well, I think I'm just thinking of like recommendation 2.
Okay, so
or something
mentoring
like that.
and a orientation.
Or we could do a
Or
7.
even number 6, right? Like the program standards, where you just add, that's one of the tweaks.
Yeah,
Oh, sure.
I think, yeah. You might it up here for me so I can pull it up. This document? Well, I just wanted to put that out there before we started. So who's our scribe?
Vanessa elected Devin to be the scribe.
We
Sorry, I'm unable to do that at this moment.
Okay.
No, not yet. The slides.
The slides, I emailed them to everyone.
Okay. Okay.
And what the slide deck has the same recommendations on it as are in the handout.
Okay.
So if you want to just go in and work on those.
Okay. So do you have like the one that we did last time where we had to write it, or?
Yeah, Ben, did you?
I have a very quick question. So what if one of the recommendations has now been hit with the interim recommendations that were made to the commission?
They just make a note on it that like you want to scratch it from the list.
Do we scratch it then?
What if we necessarily don't want to, but
You want it in there still?
Well, that's what I
Yeah,
was
make a
wanted
note about that.
to- Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because that's a good question. And I don't have the answer to that. But Ben, you were able to get the slides?
Yeah, I got them. Thank you.
All right.
do you want to pull it up and then Ben, you can kind of just
Sure.
lead us through?
Yeah, Vanessa has now nominated Ben
So now
to.
Ben is. now- I'm a delegator, guys.
Thank you, Ben. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Ben.
Vanessa's our lead in this process, apparently.
Facilitator.
Facilitator.
So at the end of this, Vanessa's going to be our voice and share.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
It's a self-appointment at this moment.
Oh no, just joined the Zoom.
You just joined.
Okay, so these are the fill in the blank things that we had last time. Okay, makes sense. Okay, so one.
And out to lead.
Ben, do you remember which one of these was already put forth?
So the thing that when we were looking at the interim, there's something about acceptable supports. I feel like there's something about acceptable supports. And I might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure. And then there's this clarifying acceptable supports.
Right.
Am I ringing a bell is anyone else ringing a bell when I say that or no? With the interim actions?
Yes, there.
Was there something about acceptable supports in the interim actions or no?
Yes, they were going to develop a PSA to send out to programs to clarify acceptable supports, but anything additional besides a PSA, having trainings, things of that nature, those can be added in.
Okay.
So under acceptable supports up there, can we just put it in parentheses and just write it in like red that says interim current action? Yeah. And then do we want to state the interim action that they're gonna send out, what is it?
Program sponsor alert, so.
Yeah, a PSA? We want to put dash PSA in the works? I don't know.
So I just checked. It says, so the interim action was issue updated guidelines for acceptable support, clarifying that direct ongoing feedback from faculty, supervisors, and mentor teachers aimed at improving candidate responses and addressing technical issues, so on and so forth. Encourage forms of support. And so their current progress is webinars for support providers, info sessions, for support gatherings, videos for candidates, and reviewing possible revisions to the TPAs.
You said, so that's also about mentor training? Am I hearing that properly or am I misconstruing?
I don't know if it's necessarily training other than just providing information.
Yeah, it depends on what the direction of those webinars are. Like, are they to train? Are they just office hours, like we heard the commission saying before, like drop-ins, or what are they for those providers?
One that we do have coming up for both Cal APA and Cal TPA is, we call them digging deeper sessions, where we go into one very specifically. And so we're going to be talking about the acceptable and recommended supports, acceptable and required supports, and how programs do that. Because I don't think that programs need a lecture about how to do these things. They need to hear other faculty say how we do these things in our programs. And so it's going to be an 1.5-hour seminar. It was asked for by the Cal APA crew. And so but we are going to be doing that for TPA, and that's actually separate from this. It's just something that I'm managing and it's coming up in about a month that I'm thinking about. But
Those all of the program sponsors that.
so they are optional. We do advertise them for a month in advance. We send out an email to all program coordinators that we have listed in the ADS system. Every program has to annually update who their 2 points of contact are. And so we send out an email to all those folks, like I said, publish it in the PSD. And we typically get between 40 to 80 participants at those events. Like we just ran one that was on how to teach candidates about culturally and linguistically responsive practices and how to leverage those in the teacher performance assessment. We had about 80 folks show up to that. And then we just did one that was on results analyzer. So how to look at your data. That one was pretty heavily attended. There was about 120 folks that attended that. So those are things that we are doing specifically for Cal TPA.
Do you guys keep
But those are those recorded and posted anywhere? I mean, I didn't get a notification for those, and I'm listening to the ADS system for our institution. So I'm just wondering, is there a way for me to see those or listen to those?
So we do record them and we do post them on our YouTube channel. I just gave the IT guys my computer because it's been acting up, but I do have the videos. And so we're going to be pulling off the culturally and linguistically responsive one. That was, if I think it was like, might have been just last week or the week before. And then the results analyzer one was last week. It's either like that. So I'm not sure why you didn't get a notification of that because we always push it out in that way. We are creating listservs for Cal APA and Cal TPA so folks can sign up and that way we can send them out in that way. But yeah, but we did advertise them in the PSD for about a month.
Do you keep track, Shaz, if you keep data on which programs participate and?
Yes, people have to register and then we usually send out slides and recordings and such after the seminars.
And if
But we do post them on YouTube as well.
ideally you sent this out and all of the programs participated, how many people would that probably be?
There's more than 230 programs statewide, right? But some programs might offer more than one credential area.
Yeah.
And so it depends on, like the program that I coordinated offered education specialist, mild, moderate support needs, extensive support needs in multiple subjects. So there were 3 different credential areas. Some larger institutions might offer 10 different pathways. So it would be 1 person or 2 people or 15 people. It just depends on the faculty engagement. Yeah.
So I have a potential recommendation for a combination, if you guys were comfortable with it, between this slide right here, which is number 9, right? So I'm going to leave it here for a second so you can read it.
It's 1 and 2, huh?
And then this right here with the interim action, because really the interim action took care of this top half. And then the bottom half is providing feedback for interns, coaches, faculty, like where we're providing feedback, which is what this recommendation says.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Like any.
So I'm wondering if we can somehow combine them. Also, the word intern is used, and I don't think we meant the word intern. I think we meant this for any participant, because I don't think this is specific to interns, right?
Yeah. That would be credential candidates or something like that. Yeah.
Could you go back to the other one real quick?
Yeah.
I would probably, and I'm just a little.
I would use, I don't want to delete either, Devin. I want to make sure I'm clear. Like maybe take portions of this and the other one so we don't lose the substance of like the clear specific feedback without providing, you know what I mean?
Right. No, I agree. The only thing I'm just kind of feeling uncomfortable with is the last statement, because most mentors, faculties, and peers don't have an understanding of the TPA.
That's true.
So they would have to go through some sort of training or be able to provide feedback in a limited capacity, I guess.
It's kind of hand in hand though with what I think, where is it? This one's going, right? Like adding training, not just to mentors. And then there's a separate one about, maybe there wasn't a separate one. I thought there was something about training basically anyone, maybe it's in a different group, training anyone that's like touching the TPA.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree.
Can we add a statement that says can be provided by educational partners who are properly trained?
Yeah, for the LPA, we did offer, so any of the field test participants, we did offer a mentor teacher, cooperating teacher training that we held live and then also recorded and sent out to folks. And that was actually pretty well attended as well.
And I think, right, hold on, Ben. I think recommendation 4 is different because I think recommendation 4 was for interns who are taking the TPA, which we acknowledge is a little bit different when you're working full-time on an internship credential and you still have to pass the TPA, but you can't because you're working full-time. So I think recommendation 4 was a little bit different. I don't mind combining them, but just remembering now that it was specifically about internship teachers who are on internship credentials taking the TPA.
But I'm just going to throw this out there. Would it be, is it easier for interns to complete the TPA because they have their own class and they're more familiar with students and more capable of connecting the TPA requirements to their actual instruction? I get the workload issue. I know it's a lot of work, but I think it's also
It's more accessible. I think
yes.
you're right on that. They have a lower pass rate, they have a lower completion rate. And it's because, like, as a student teacher, I mean, I didn't get this experience, but from what I understand, they could be in the back of the room while their mentor teacher's teaching, working on it, right? Whereas as an intern, they're doing the lesson planning, the grading, all of that. So their priority is actually their students most of the time, not their credential, which is honorable and fantastic. And actually what I would want in a teacher, right? And at the same time, creates an issue for credentialing.
Well, I think if we are aware of the impact and the time impact of the TPA, and the reason why we're improving it is so that we kind of eliminate that unnecessary time consumption or time, and so the interns might not be as affected if we are properly revising this and making it more relevant to their context.
Well, and I think we also talked about, or I know I talked about like the LEA's role in helping support teachers on internship credentials and needing that time off to complete it and not expect to teach a full-time class and to end the TPA. And then I hope I have a job next year because I did pass or I did pass. So I know kind of reading some of the things that we get, participant experiences, like I kind of saw that a lot. It's like I didn't pass it, I tried, I couldn't pass it, I was teaching full time. And so just trying to, like, those are real barriers for some of our teachers out there working in, and mostly I see a lot of special ed teachers on interns, on internship credentials. So anyway, I just wanted to say, I don't mind combining 1 and 4, but if we can just clarify too that to teachers who are on internship credentials and taking the TPA, need extra support, whether it's from the university, program sponsor, from the school district, from the principal, from mentor, master teacher, that they just need support to help them pass so that they can keep their job for next year. So we can keep them in the field in special education.
Do you think that assigning or saying that we have to have mentors trained would alleviate that?
Yeah, and I wonder too, I mean,
Other recommendation I'm just worried about singling out intern credentials because it's without sounding mean, but that's the pathway that they chose. And so that I worry about adjusting everything else. That they're
I think
doing
in theory,
don't
there's this huge disconnect between what's happening in theory and should be happening in practice, because interns should be receiving additional support.
Right.
I know a lot of that is placed on the district to be assigned a specific mentor that is supposed to guide them and work with them and answer questions and really help them through the process, in addition to the university or the institution providing that support, knowing their interns. It doesn't always happen though. So we know that. So yeah, calling attention to that is important.
Yeah. So Devin and Patricia, I like what you guys are saying. So this one right here, what Tina said in the room where it's like, this is beyond what we're doing.
Yeah.
We need experts to look into it. Can we put that in like?
Well, I think that's what creates a separate group to study internship.
Yeah, internship. And that could change MOUs. And then do we want to put in parentheses, like what we're talking about, for example,
I think right there, this recommendation is necessary because.
Okay, so then, because you want to add that in there, so you can emphasize.
Teacher candidates on internship credentials who are also expected to take the TPA have difficulty passing. And often these credentials are in our most underserved areas and our underserved populations. Because I know math too math's another huge one I know is out there. Sciences, yeah.
The pass rates for education specialists that are interns are actually higher than general education spaces. And so that would be something interesting to look at. And because I was an education specialist, I think
I
that it made
think
me a
it's
better
the support.
teacher.
I think it, I really do.
And so the way you think
Yeah.
through things makes more logical sense as an education specialist, right? But then I've also been in a space where I've been supporting an education specialist that had 54 candidates on their caseload.
Mhm.
And so every district is different. And that's where that power of that MOU is going to be in space. And then also, having good educational partners.
Yeah, and I think that's the support. The support, I think.
Also think there is, I don't want to say, I guess less, I think the assessor or the scorer scores ed specialist TPAs with a little lighter expectation. And I say this because I know for us, our candidates receive the exact same instruction, same level of instruction. They receive all the same support. We have 99.9% success pass rate for our ed specialist, but our single subject and multiple subject don't, even though they're receiving the same level of support and encouragement and instruction throughout the process. And so I do think there's a little difference in the assessment expectation with ed specialists.
Can see that. I definitely see, I don't want to say it's a bias, but I do see because of our student population, especially for more extensive needs supports, where those students don't communicate, they're nonverbal, some are just bedridden, like there's some serious,
Profound, yeah.
difficulties at and so how could you be expected to have a multiple subject teach a unit on literacy to students who don't have the intellectual ability?
Right, and that's why the education specialist assessment is different, right?
Yeah.
So there are some very key differences because you're focusing on children and students with IEPs. Instead of having to teach a group of students, you teach one. So there is expectations for an additional adult who is qualified, so a cooperating teacher or a paraprofessional to be working with, and that part is measured as well. So you're not looking at apples to apples when you say Cal TPA for multiple subjects, single subject, and then Cal TPA from education specialists, because they do have different rubrics and different expectations. And so perhaps that's something to look at and see what are we asking of these folks
The
to do,
differences,
right?
yeah.
And then there is the rule of one TPA, right? You get through one series of TPA, Ed TPA, or Cal TPA 1-2 fast. Any additional credential you add on, no more TPA. You've demonstrated competency in one space. And so are they all alike? Are they enough alike? Or do they all demonstrate the competency that would if you wanted to go on and add an additional credential?
Yeah.
And that's why I think error code A2 is such an interesting one. Hey, you passed under a different credential area or you misflagged the credential area, but you know what? It won't count, right? Like that's such an interest, but you know what? You passed a previous TPA in a different area and that one will count. Like it just makes no sense.
What A2 is someone that goes on.
I know they misflag, I understand. But like if one TPA is equal to another for a clear credential, regardless of methodology, does it really matter which one they select? And I understand it means the person has to score it, but can't we just route it to that person? Like,
yeah, but that's not necessarily the case as well. It's not one thing for a PE teacher demonstrates how to deep learning of content differently than a single subject English teacher.
right, but if they get their PE credential, they don't need to do the TPA again in English. You just said that.
Correct, because they'll have a clear credential. And then they have to go add another credential, which means they have to take the methodology, they have to do the field work. They just don't have the teacher performance assessment as an additional requirement. So it's not like you can just demonstrate subject matter competency and oh yeah, you have to demonstrate subject matter competency. So you can't just get a PE credential and say, you know what, I want to teach history tomorrow and I'm just going to go do that. You have to demonstrate subject matter competency, you have to take methods courses, you have to do field work. It's just you don't have another TPA.
You don't got to do field work. But the other two things are true.
Yeah, no, you have to do field work. You just have to do,
Different credential?
You do not need to do field work. If you pass the methods course, and if you have, like, I can show you the
you have a
CTC.
clear credential and you are adding a single subject credential to a single subject credential, that's correct. But if you are adding an education specialist credential to a general education credential.
Yeah, those are different credentials. Yeah, totally.
So if it's, yeah,
Yes.
but that's for folks who have a clear credential and
Or preliminary.
clear credential, you've been through induction, all those spaces. They don't need to demonstrate field work. They've already done it through their work. So.
Yes.
Can we go down to the implementation of this recommendation?
Oh, no, altogether.
Please.
9:30. You guys, I think we're supposed to do it at 9:30. What time is it?
No.
9:26.
9:35.
9:35.
We got 12 minutes to go.
12 minutes, okay.
Cool.
All
Okay.
right. We're gonna have to save this conversation for,
Yeah.
to be continued.
Yeah.
Are we okay with recommendations 1 and 2? I know we're on 3.
This is improve candidate
No,
support.
this is candidate support. not
Yeah,
curriculum.
Ben, can we see 1 and 2? Are we good with 1 and 2? Put stars on them or something? Okay, hold on.
Nothing's written.
Real quickly, Ben and Devin, I remember we were in a group. I'm sorry, what is your name again? Marissa. I was in the same room with the three of you when we talked about without providing answers. Because you two had gone to
Yes.
training and said we weren't allowed to say this, and then Marissa said, actually, you can say it, and it went back and forth for a good 15 minutes. So, that being said, the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because that's the reason why we said specific feedback without providing answers. Is that where we also need to put a parentheses and say, we need like some kind of training or experts to send out like a list or something of what you can say, like Marissa, I remember you had said, oh, you can phrase it like this, you just can't phrase it like that, you know what I mean? And then Ben, you and Devin were like, wait a minute, what? We've been told specifically not to do that, and it went back and forth, and so that was the reason why that was there.
Mhm.
So do we need to say something?
What that said.
Because I remember it got kind of hot.
Well, and that's acceptable supports. That, like, what you're talking about is what acceptable supports is, which is why I was like 9 and 12 are very similar.
Okay.
Perhaps vignettes on what great acceptable supports can look like.
Yeah, yesterday in the Ed TPA, was anyone in there with me, right? She said that they were putting together, or they have already, like videos and helpful websites and things like that, that they were and another platform over the
Yeah, I
summer.
mean, it sounds like they have support. It's just like, it sounds like people don't know about the supports or they don't have the time to look at these supports.
Right.
I think one of the big issues that we had with supports was the type of feedback that we could provide when looking at a candidate's materials. I think that's, the feedback and the support, because there's support that's provided, but the feedback that we provide also falls under support. But I think there was some confusion as to what could be said and what could not be said as far as feedback was concerned.
Yeah, well, and I think that leads me to what I was saying about orientation at the beginning as well, because I think it's going to be important that programs are explaining to candidates and, to candidates what TPA they're choosing, what the expectations are, and what the timeline is, what available resources there are, and things like that, that is already happening for clinical practice, but not for TPA, and it's just kind of thrown out there. So I think if we implement an orientation process that reviews the specific TPA and what the expectations are, then all of these things kind of get washed away because we're explaining this is a TPA, these are the things that are available, we're using Cal TPA, these are the things that are available, here's how you access these resources, here are the timeline that our program is laying out for this candidate, so it's not such a shock when it's January and we got to write 40 pages. So that was my intention for orientation is to kind of, now we don't need to go through these things because Cal TPA, Ed TPA have these things embedded already in their programs. Programs just are not aware of them. So they need to be able to access that.
And I also wonder with you saying that the accountability from the programs to demonstrate that we have. And again, data. I have worked with that candidate. I have this time. We've talked about these things. Like, where is that like documentation of support? So when they pass or fail the TPA, you'd be like, we had this support, but that candidate, for whatever reason, we're adults. We have our things that we go through. So maybe something happened. So I also like to see some kind of that accountability and just to like cover your butt, right?
Mhm.
Just to say like,
Well,
hey,
yeah, and I think that a lot of the challenges that we're hearing is, well, my program didn't tell me, my
Yes.
program didn't tell me, my program didn't tell me. And what Cal TPA, FAST, and Ed TPA are telling us is we have these things available, you just don't know about them. So I think if we create an orientation or a requirement for an orientation to discuss the platform and the specific TPA that the program is using, then it'll alleviate a lot of the things that we're talking about already, because EdTPA has a whole YouTube series on how to give feedback. They have this faculty feedback tool that we didn't even know about. And now, had we had an orientation at the beginning to explain all of these things, then yeah,
Real
then
quickly,
we
Vanessa,
wouldn't be
who's
so lost.
providing this? Who do you envision providing this
The
orientation?
same people who are doing the clinical practice orientation, whatever
So this is the
program
university.
sponsor. The university, the program has decided this is how we do clinical practice, this is how we do TPA, whatever TPA we're using, here's how we're doing it for this program. And it's written in the standard program standards already to have an orientation for clinical practice. So we can do the same thing for TPA, since both are hand in hand earning your credential. And separately. No, I think separately, because clinical practice on its own is its own undertaking, and then TPA on its own is its own undertaking. And as a candidate, I don't want to hear both of those things at the same time.
Something's supposed to be truly embedded.
Right, but TPA is very different than what I'm gonna do in clinical practice, and I don't think that TPA. Right.
I think that could be at the discretion of the program,
Maybe,
depending on the
yeah.
context and
Right,
sort of
but
like,
I think that like
yeah.
expectations of TPA and the supports and all of those things are very separate than clinical practice, and I would hate to get them convoluted and then be like, then the programs be like, well, we talked about it at orientation, and it's like one slide when 40 slides are clinical practice, you know?
Yeah, what I used to do when I would meet with my candidates for onboarding and orientation is develop their course of study. And in that course of study was a timeline of how they were going to meet the requirements of Cal TPA 1, 2, RECA for those that were required, what courses they were going to take. And we would have an orientation at the beginning, and then we'd have a returning candidate orientation each semester. And we talk about all those spaces. And
But what I'm more concerned about is that nobody understands TPA. And so I am thinking that TPA specific, these are the tasks, you have to pay for it. My candidates didn't know they had to pay for it until August or until October. Like there are so many things that are involved in TPA that then I worry about that same thing is like, oh, and don't forget you have to throw TPA in there. And it's different
Okay,
than,
so where can we
Sorry.
add that in
Yeah.
there, Vanessa? Because I do like that you have this orientation, and it's just, I'm sure it could be embedded in one of our,
I thought it was in recommendation 2 right here,
right
right?
here, wait, hold on.
That is at the
Add
commission,
mentor.
add mentor training.
Would we change mentor to like educational partner and then list like mentor? Do you see what I'm saying?
put in parens, all the different educational partners.
But that doesn't say it's an orientation. That means we're training them.
Yeah, that's when I read that, I'm thinking like mentor teacher training specific to the TPA, and that's not what Vanessa's talking about. I think what Vanessa's talking about is that the students don't know what's going on, and so
So
the
you want to
students need
pull
a separate.
Yeah, I agree with that, Vanessa, because before I got to where I am, our candidates didn't even know about the TPA until
exactly.
their final
That's-
semester.
Yes, and that's why I don't want to combine it with anything else. They need to understand TPA is TPA, which is separate than clinical practice. And yes, it can be embedded, but you need to understand all of the
we need more time.
28 things that.
Okay, all right.
That's what I'm interrupting to say. The timeline was aspirational.
It was,
We're gonna shoot for 10 o'clock?
perfect. That's perfect.
All right.
We can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, so can we, in this one, because are we able to add more recommendations? Because,
Yeah. Yeah, we
okay,
can do
because I
that.
was gonna say, in this one,
Yeah.
I'm saying if we wanted to extend this specific one, it says that we're training the mentors, but it doesn't say what we're doing with it. So if we're saying we want to add mentor training about the required forms of TPA and have those mentors facilitate an orientation to disseminate that information to the interns.
Was
I
that,
think it should be separate.
Separate,
I
okay.
do, I don't want it to get lost and be like, oh, well, we did this first part, but we didn't do the second part. Okay, I'm sorry.
no, it's okay.
No, that's.
Was this recommendation because there exists other training for, I mean, sorry, training for other sort of parts of the system, but not mentors? Or was this, like, why is that, yeah, I'm wondering why the focus on mentor training here? Not that I'm saying we shouldn't train mentors, we should absolutely train mentors. I'm just wondering if this is really honing in on mentors or if we should, or if I should think about it in a more expansive way.
Well, I think what I understood was a lot of the mentors don't know the TPA.
Mhm.
Master teacher gets candidate
Right.
and they've never done TPA, they don't know how to help support them, they have
Yeah.
no idea what they're doing. Because we didn't have to do it in my teacher training program.
Mhm.
That's kind of where
Right, and what I learned yesterday is Ed TPA has a beautiful document that says, here's how you support them.
For
And
mentors or just
for
for any?
mentors.
Oh,
So
no,
they're for anybody,
I
anyone
see.
supporting somebody with TPA. So that's why I'm saying, like, if there is a way to say, like, here are all the resources Ed TPA has, here are all the resources Cal TPA has in an orientation format, then maybe these things would be
I see.
alleviated.
And there's currently, that doesn't currently exist in our
Standards.
in our program standards to say that programs have to orient mentors around these
Correct.
items. It doesn't
It
currently
does
limit.
not.
I
Which
see.
is why-
There's a lot of
Can we-
shoulds.
Can we
I
add
hear
mentors?
Oh,
yes.
without a lot of.
Yes, and availables,
Okay.
yes, I hear shoulds and availables, but I don't hear anybody's like required to do anything.
I
Yeah.
see, I see.
Can we add mentor and supervisors?
Beginning of
Yeah,
program.
I think there's
It's
a
hard for
term
cooperating teachers
that
because
says
oftentimes
something
they're
about anybody who
And it's
supports-
just another unpaid, unfunded mandate that somebody's gonna say, I think I want to do that now. So no student teacher for me. And that's the concern.
And I think that's where the LEAs need to step up.
Amen.
Gonna continue LEAs need to be even more responsible in candidate training, especially if you're expecting them to work in your school district with your students.
That came up yesterday in the group that I was in. We were talking about interns.
Yeah.
And can we recommend that LEAs are required or schools are required to give them time off, paid time off in order to, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I really do believe it, and I don't know where the funding's gonna come from, because it'll be like, where's the money?
Yeah.
Especially now in this.
That's what FAST does too. They give their candidates time to specifically to do TPA work.
But they have that understanding, and that's why it's good being small. I'm from Fresno, so you have small, you have work with 1 or 2 school districts. You have that relationship built, because everyone goes to Fresno State in the Valley for teacher prep, and so, yeah, you have like that community already built in.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, should we move on from this one? Or sorry, you already made.
You want to add your recommendation so I know we have 6 recommendations, so we add number 7.
To explain, I'm just bouncing between whatever you guys are talking about. So it went to intern, so I went to the intern one.
Facilitator there, Ben.
Look at her kissing up to you, Ben. She's gonna ask you
No, he
something
was-
else.
he was representing.
You did a really great job typing those in. I think you're the one.
Something to recommendation 1, if possible. I just, with the feedback conversation. Something that came up yesterday, not sure if I missed it because I came in late today, but there should be some clear expectations or at least discussion of AI as feedback, as a tool for feedback. And so we currently don't have anything, I know, but I think we should just acknowledge that there needs to be something somewhere so that candidates understand the role of AI, whether that's on the program or on the provider. That's open, but I think we do need to address what's
say-
appropriate usage of AI in the process.
I thought we had talked about it being defaulted to the institution's academic policy.
That's what it currently is.
Right,
Yes,
and two.
But I don't think there's
Including tools as.
But there's no mandate that I have to have a policy as an institution.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I can say we don't have one.
Yeah.
And I think there just needs to be some clarity somewhere. I don't know if it's like, institutions need to have a policy or.
How about right here? Yeah, CTC, TPA, whatever, AI policy. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
this is where it comes from. It's
Or just that-
this arena.
Consider it, or like, please address it or something. I don't know that I have the answer to it yet, but.
Okay, would that be another one of those, please have a group that addresses
Well, I feel
AI?
like that's almost another recommendation.
Right.
Like if you put AI in one of these things, I would be afraid that when it moved on to the next step, that they'd be like, oh, we're not ready to discuss AI at this time, so this recommendation is gonna be
Right.
X'd out. So whatever we add on to this would then, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
So almost needs to be like a number 7 or.
What number are we at
8
now?
Whatever we're adding on, but, no, but, yeah,
Maybe like, establish a, I don't know if it.
yeah, recommend a group to study, explore, yes,
This
yes.
one, Acceptable supports, including use of AI
It can be that too.
types and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Do you think that would be
Yeah, my concern is that if someone, as this gets pushed up, because
Yeah.
nobody's familiar with AI, it's clear, right? And that, or at least to a point where they feel comfortable making any kind of recommendation on it that maybe, or signing it into law, right? So,
And by the time you assemble a work group, they work their way through it, it's changed.
it's changed, yeah.
You know, and that's how quick it's moving. So
Expert group.
we have to have 14-year-olds come together and talk.
There you go.
Because they
Yeah.
know it.
We definitely don't have a policy specific to TPA, but after yesterday and seeing what
Yeah.
we can do, I was like, oh, we
There you
should
go.
think about this.
We were actually talking, I used Copilot to do the thing, and then Kathy used ChatGPT. She got a 4 on hers. I got a 3 on mine.
interesting?
Yeah, so Copilot, no, they're not good. ChatGPT is better. So,
Skip degrees.
yeah, I know. So it was just funny because I scored it against the rubric after I put in everything that FAST required, and I just got 3s across the board. She got
Josh, you can have a
4s, yeah.
blog.
Interesting.
Yeah.
If you want a cheat on the TPA, please use ChatGPT. You'll get a 4. Like, there should be a disclaimer somewhere saying like, please don't solely trust the, I don't know.
Yeah,
Right, that goes back to AI policy, right?
Yeah.
Knowing that it's a tool, it's not gonna write
Yes.
your paper for you.
Right.
It's not gonna do this,
Yeah.
it's giving you ideas so that it's like a brainstorming tool.
Right. But what I think is interesting is we have sort of parameters around what a human can say.
Mhm.
And yet a student can actually go in AI and ask the thing that I can't say,
Mhm.
and it's gonna give them feedback.
very good,
And
yeah.
whether that's valid feedback or not is a different question, but just, I think it's interesting to consider.
But it's also like the danger of the AI too, is like whatever you feed it, it's gonna absorb. And then it has its
Absolutely.
own.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So
That's
with
right.
ChatGPT, it does absorb, but I went to an AI like conference and they said with Copilot, and that's why I use Copilot, if you go through if your district opts out of the brain of AI, it'll keep your
Separate.
stuff
Yes.
out of the
Okay.
whatever.
Right.
Whatever,
That
Skynet or whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, so it keeps it out. So that's why I use Copilot,
Okay, that's good.
because
And I
it
know,
keeps ours.
like in
stuff out of
our-
it.
Like, I've seen this
In
movie
my
before.
paper, they caution that like, don't put your papers through that.
Yes, because
then
it
now
absorbs
you're
it.
gonna plagiarize yourself.
Exactly, yeah, yeah.
Did I capture this
Okay.
reasonably well, or is there shifts or changes on the AI? It's pretty broad.
I think
And I think it should be broad
Maybe you could say,
because,
including
yeah.
feedback.
We're asking for an expert group.
because it should be broad because we want them to have, the freedom to explore from scoring to writing to whatever it is, yeah. That's what I believe, yeah.
Again, I
Yes.
see it as a tool for them because again, you're beginning
Mhm.
teacher, a lesson
Yeah.
plan. What's a lesson plan? It's so overwhelming.
Just ask Brisk. He'll take care of it for you.
Yeah. Mhm.
Is Risk another AI?
No, it's just, so you can because I can go into Copilot right now and have it plan out my whole year.
Copilot is.
Yes, it's the Microsoft AI, yeah.
And Brisk is a Google one, so it just works in Drive. You just
Yeah.
download it,
It's
you
just whatever.
type in a lesson plan, and there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's so
I
many.
just learned about Gemma also. Okay. Okay, can we write my orientation recommendation?
Yes.
Oh,
And I'm gonna pull up the language from the clinical practice orientation so that.
So is this something the commission's in charge of, or is it something programs are facilitating?
Programs are facilitating.
I might be confusing program standard. I know our program does this. Is that not already part of program standards?
Nope.
Really?
So Ben, like I was saying earlier, there's a lot of shoulds and availables, but there's no requirement. And I think that's what's getting missed here is that there's no, I think what Vanessa is saying, I'm sorry, Vanessa, for speaking for, but
I got it.
from
Yep.
you is that, yeah, that there needs to be an actual requirement that programs do
And
this.
the requirement is what makes it accountable.
Yeah.
Makes programs or people accountable.
Mm.
So is it a program standard shift that are we looking at like program standard 5 and embedding it? Is that how we're approaching it?
Yeah, we could, if you'd like to.
Because recommendation 6. Okay.
Or maybe I do it like
Find
this.
the PDF that has.
Okay, yeah, so. Or not 7.
Something happened in there.
I'm getting confused.
I have 8.
Yeah.
I think 7 was the orientation.
You're right. This is 8 now.
Okay, so now we have 8. Okay, all right.
Orientation. Do we need to spell out what the orientation?
Yeah, I think
entails?
maybe, Vanessa, do you want to add what you would like to see in that orientation?
That.
Yeah, sorry, I was
Right?
trying to come up with I was trying to find the document that has the clinical practice language so that I could like replicate it that way. About, yes, to all participants, I would say, because we could then invite the mentors to join the mentee to the TPA orientation so that they get the same information. If we wanted, like that could be a should, but it doesn't have to, but I think the requirement should be that the program provides an orientation for fee.
Work with the credential candidate. Is the
No, that's
orientation?
for the candidate.
Oh, just for the candidate?
Hold
Not
on.
even for mentors and coaches or is it for all?
So perhaps you could say all that work with the credential candidate and then like, comma, including candidate as well, something like that. And then it should be, I think what Vanessa was saying, where it says provide an orientation, I think what we're worried about is that it'll get smushed into something else. So maybe provide like a standalone orientation or a separate orientation. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm a little concerned about that. I feel like that's really prescriptive. Like as a person who facilitates a program, tell me I have to do a separate thing. I mean, I understand the importance of it, but I just think that maybe that's a little too, like the grain size is a little too small.
We already do it.
So
If it's already
is-
required of some, it seems like right now it's already required of some parts of the program, but not other parts.
It's
Well,
just,
I think
I
think
agree.
what's-
I'm sorry, Devin, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
Let me,
I'm just trying to think and help me if I'm incorrect, Vanessa, but because there's already in existence a separate clinical teaching orientation that tells candidates the process and what the expectations are for clinical teaching.
Mhm.
However, oftentimes the issue of Cal TPA gets thrown in there very minimally and kind of gets overlooked. So the idea is because this is the gatekeeper, this is a major assessment. I think the same approach should be taken with a Cal TPA only focused orientation, very similar to that's already being done for clinical teaching. Is that correct, Vanessa?
yes, let me read to you what the clinical practice expectation or the paragraph is right now. The program provides initial orientation for preparation program supervisors and district employed supervisors of clinical practice experiences to ensure all supervisors understand their role and expectations. The minimal amount of program supervision involving formal evaluation, blah, 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 all of those things. So that it is literally just one sentence that says program provides initial orientation for preparation program supervisors and district employed supervisors of clinical practice. So I think similar should be for TPA, right? And that would be program standard 5, implementation of the TPA. So the sentence says the program provides initial orientation for.
Well, and I think to your point, so like programmatically, we have an orientation for all of our candidates, separate than all the other orientations. It's 4 hours long, with a large deep dive into the TPA, right? Then we have a separate orientation for like mentors, where we cover like the TPA, and then we have a separate orientation for coaches. Would that be? when I read this, I wonder if it's one orientation with everyone in the room, which gets really scary because that's a lot of people.
I don't know. I don't know what the exact thing could, I don't know.
And
You know,
the-
what are your thoughts on that? I mean,
not drinking out of a
programmatically.
water hose. If you have too many orientations and people don't have enough to wrap their mind around, maybe at like what point, right? Because if you start a program, and I thought this myself when I was 3 years in the classroom, I was like, man, I wish I could go back and take that methods course again because I would understand it a little bit better. So at what point is it too?
I just, all of our candidates are saying they don't understand what the TPA is, and I think that this is an easy way to say, here it is.
Yeah, and this
Well,
is,
I'm good with the orientation. Like, I want to make sure that part's clear. I'm just wondering about that one word standalone.
Yeah, I think that we can take out standalone. It says the program provides initial orientation, and I
Well, and
think
to your point, program standard actually didn't even say that credential candidates get it. It only talked about support providers and mentors based
Yeah.
off what you read. So
right.
Well, we can justify that, not justify, but yes, justify too. It's because right there, Vanessa, because candidates don't know, right? And I think also in the orientation, I don't know if we need to necessarily add it specifically on here, but what is it, the second passing rate or the second chance one?
Secondary passing standard.
Secondary
Passing
passing
standard.
rate, like candidates don't know about that. And I think they do need to know about that
yeah, and
And resources available.
and resources available.
Resource, supports or allowed and not allowed is the word that I was looking for.
well, at what point
yeah.
is the clinical practice orientation happening, and why does it I feel like I'm hearing from you guys that they're getting too much orientation at one time, but why are they getting too much orientation at one time? Why are they not, they're supposed to be working, if TPAs are supposed to be embedded throughout the credentialing practice, then why aren't we having a TPA orientation at some point? And then later on, they have their clinical practice. It doesn't have to be like we're waiting till the end of the program to give you a TPA orientation when it probably should be closer to the beginning,
it
right?
should
Or
be.
the,
Well,
at
this
least
was-
the middle, right?
as an intern program, it is literally the first orientation we do. Like August 2nd, school starts. We do our July 27th orientation, welcoming everyone in, going over TPA requirements. It's literally like, because they're in field work from the start, right? But that's internship, so I can't speak about student teaching.
Provide an initial orientation.
I like the language that you read. I thought that
Yeah,
was nice language. I think that, I mean, I've experienced programs do different things in different ways, and it works for their context. I've experienced programs who say, you know, we give sort of a little bit of a tight, a quick summary at the beginning, and we tell candidates, we're not going to come back to this until here because of the overwhelm. And that works for that program. I've had other programs that I know of that start much earlier and give a lot more. Cal TPA has 2 cycles. Ed TPA does not. Secondary for Ed TPA has the one all the way at the end versus elementary. There's a task 4. And so I think it really does vary based on the context and the program. And right now, I think that folks are using some discretion, and maybe some partners maybe not doing it as much as they should. And maybe, you know, other programs, it does work to do it in different ways. And so I just want to make sure that we don't have the unintended consequence of really constraining something that does work for a program, and being too prescriptive in what we're saying. That's all.
We add that kind of disclaimer in as appropriate for the program or something to that effect.
Sure, yeah.
The context of the program
Yeah.
and the choice or the TPA that they've chosen.
Uh,
And we have about 8 minutes.
How you doing?
I don't,
We-
we have
well,
extra
very
recommendations.
Yeah.
Well, I think that nobody's ready.
Okay.
So how much time do you feel like you need?
5 minutes an hour? Okay, I'm sorry, that's
Yeah,
not.
I actually,
Take time.
to be honest, I'm kind of lost in which one, because we added the
Yeah,
ones,
yeah,
and I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
sure where we are in the actual flow.
What if we say 10:15?
We can knock this out in 10 minutes.
We could.
Okay.
I'll check. I'm gonna go.
All right, so you'll check for the 10:15 and then you'll let us know?
Let's plan on 10:15.
Okay, we're planning on
Okay.
10:15.
Right, do it.
Okay.
So I just went to the next one that's not complete. So I went back up to 5, then 6, then 7 are not complete. And then after that, I think we look at all of them again because I'm sometimes just typing and I don't feel comfortable with it just being my words. So
Um,
For the record, I do like your words, Ben.
Very good words, Ben. Very good words.
Yeah, for sure.
this was the one that was about interns that we changed to credential candidates. Should I change it back to interns?
I don't know if the interim action that they put, was it for interns, Marissa, or was this one?
It was for everybody.
It was for everybody,
The
okay.
Action was for everybody. If you want something specific around interns, I would make sure you say intern pathway, because, right, a resident versus a student teacher is gonna have a very different experience than an intern would have.
Yeah.
For sure.
I also like to that point, and I'm saying this is an intern program, like we have the exact same accreditation standards as a non-intern program or a more traditional program. There's like very little difference in terms of accreditation. I again kind of come back to this and think this is a little redundant.
I want to agree with you, Ben, and I think that since we created the other recommendation, I think, and again, the orientation may clarify the acceptable supports, and then this is not necessary, and since we added the other intern recommendation, I think that maybe this one we don't even need.
You want to just
If that's
say
okay with you
recommendation
guys.
5? If you guys are okay, I'm okay.
So what is this redundant of? Can we go back to the
The
original?
Yeah, sure. It's in a few spots. That's the reason why. So I'm going to go to this one first.
Okay.
Clear specific feedback without providing answers.
Okay.
We have a separate group studying internship and the differences, including like good recommendations to make for intern programs.
Okay.
And then we're clarifying acceptable supports here, but that's already an interim action.
Yeah.
We're talking about feedback for credential candidates, or it said interns before, but this is for all credential candidates with clarifying feedback.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good with getting rid of that one.
And then we're providing stuff for coaches, faculty, etc. But we just addressed that in the newer standard about training for all, including credential candidates.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So do we just gray out this slide then?
that's a good idea, so we don't delete it, that's good.
Yeah, maybe don't delete it, but
Can you hide it?
Skip it.
I would say, can you hide the slide so that way it's just great, grayed out, but it's still there.
just.
I could also just do this.
Yes. You could- yeah. You could,
Yes.
yeah.
I'll
Strike
just skip it. I think skipping it's probably right.
Yeah.
You don't need the dramatics.
and little sounds and whistles. Day instead.
Well, no, Ben, the only reason why I wouldn't skip it, because it doesn't look like, it might look like we did it on accident. So I just say we just gray out the slide, just background gray it, and then put a little note, like an asterisk somewhere in the bottom, just says already embedded in the other recommendations. Right?
Okay.
That way we know why it got taken out. And anyone who looks at it knows why we got taken out.
Sure.
Not that we accidentally skipped the slide.
So we're not like erasing history. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's nice.
so.
Any other questions for me?
There we
I was
go.
gonna-
I know you're on your way out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no,
Go for
okay.
it. Might, but we'll find you.
Yeah.
So I know this is highly encouraged right now. Like I know CTC has been communicating to programs like you need to continue to support candidates. I imagine they're saying that because not all programs do it. And I know for a fact I get people who are like coming from certain programs I won't name that are like, can you help me with my TPA to our program? Right? Because people drop them. Like they just don't continue to support them. Or maybe the support's not working. I'm not sure.
Explanation, because I get the same thing. We get the same thing. People from other institutions coming saying, yeah, we need some help. We're not getting it elsewhere.
Right.
You guys say
So I
yeah.
guess, is this not a rule already? Or is this just like encouraged and not required? I'm assuming it must be. I've never seen a rule.
Did we
think it's-
talk about, I know we've talked about it before, but do we need to say it on there or at all? But to help them pass the TPA submission for at least one additional year, didn't we say something about cost without incurring additional costs for the candidates?
But then who?
Correct.
And how do they then finish it? And how long do our programs require to continue to support students who are not their students?
I can tell you for us, because I do this, and I mean twice a year, once a semester, we have a webinar. It's free to students. I cover it. I spend probably about 2 hours going over like specific issues with the TPA. And in addition to that, I also offer, just really out of the kindness of my heart, just kind of individual remediation support. Just because I mean, I don't know. I take it personal when a candidate goes through our program, completes the program, but can't complete the TPA. And so I feel it's unfair, institutionally, just to throw them out there and just say, hey, you're on your own, figure it out. So I do it on my own, and I hold webinars as well as individual, just kind of appointments to talk to them about it. I mean,
Have to take
there's no policy saying I have to do either.
Mhm.
And so I do that just because I want our candidates to be successful.
Right. Well, in my program that I did, it was, if you didn't pass the TPA, you continued to take a 1-unit course, but that 1-unit course was like 300, was it almost $400 monthly? You know what I mean? Until you passed, and it was
Who's paying for that?
we are, the candidate is, because you didn't pass your TPA. So in order to continue to get support and in order for to be considered a university student still, we had to keep playing this 1-unit course. And that can get really expensive.
We also, we have a course. It's $600 for us. And I advise them to only take the course if they need placement. So if they're not an intern, they need placement. We have to be able to justify and protect ourselves. So they have to have that process to go through for placement. But if they don't need placement, if they're an intern, they have their own class, I tell them, save your $600 and just let me know what you need. But we also have a class that they take. Some people tell them you have to take the class, but I was like, no, you don't have to. Just talk to me. So I don't know if any other institution or how they handle it. I asked, and I've gotten very little feedback from other institutions on how they address that. And I know this was a discussion that we've had, in our work group before. I don't remember the details of what we discussed, but do we need to have a recommendation requiring programs for how long? I think we even talked about that. I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's why we talked about it was a burden when there's this TPA, this, like you said, gatekeeper. And if you don't pass your TPA, then not only is your job in jeopardy, but then it costs more money. And I know that's why we had that one additional year to place that on there. But I'm looking at the financial burden, like my program, they said we needed to stay connected to the university and can still be considered a student. And so until we passed the TPA, we had to keep paying this 1-unit course every month. And it was $400, but it was monthly, not a semester. And we just had to keep continuing to do that so that we would still be considered a university intern.
I wonder if we can add some language around like cost-free and ongoing support for maybe up to a year.
Yeah.
And just leave like the nature of the support out, because, it's like, then you get into programs having to fund a person.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Right, and what the cost is. So maybe there's but a webinar or something that we record and can put online, that's something that someone can access ongoing and online.
Right.
And the student doesn't have to pay for. So maybe there's something about programs being required to create a plan or a structure for for students, so that they receive ongoing and cost-free supports up to a minimum of 1 year after they satisfactorily complete other aspects of their program.
Yes.
Because we also
Cost-free and what? What was the other word? Cost-free and
ongoing or easily accessible, something of that nature.
Or all of that, cost-free, ongoing, and easily accessible. Yeah.
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 Because I think about, like, we do a lot of test prep stuff for CSETs. We're not always the providers, but we do work with the candidate to develop a plan to where they can access materials from other places. So similarly, I think we could do that for a TPA.
And the one additional year, is that a school year, like a fall, spring, or is that a calendar year? We should really
Academic years.
specify that.
One additional year after completion of program?
Yes,
So
so,
after,
Yeah, you're right,
After-
because some people
Yeah.
do have cohort models when they finish mid-academic year.
of coursework. So one additional calendar year from completion of coursework.
I would say calendar year, yeah.
And this recommendation is necessary because candidates incur cost.
Well, it's also like candidates complete coursework but are not passing the TPA, right?
Yeah, maybe the phrase there about showing mastery in field work, like, maybe it's something like, complete other aspects of the program. I'm just thinking about, like, we have people who might pass field work, but like,
That's other stuff.
not pass other stuff. It's unlikely, usually if there's a
Yeah.
I'd say
challenge,
that'd
there's
be
a challenge.
highly unlikely, yes, that'd be highly unlikely, but.
Likely,
Every now and then there's a,
you know, there's a,
it's a tough semester, you know.
it happens, or, some other thing that comes up.
I feel like Ben's our AI right now.
I know.
Before we get out.
Candidate satisfactorily completed other aspects of demonstrating proficiency.
Yeah.
And we need to add this recommendation and something about, and because we're saying it's cost-free, wait, hold on, is necessary because candidates satisfactorily completed other aspects of test proficiency, but have not passed the TPA, which can impact them financially, or which can create financial
Hardship.
hardship.
And then we wanted to go back to mastery and field work and change it to like completing coursework or whatever, or take it out. I don't know. What did you say? It was just either
Something
taken
about
out, yeah.
satisfactory completion of program completion or other aspects of the program, something like that. We just had
You put that at the bottom.
Mastery
interesting cases that
and
come up where,
coursework completion. Showing, don't put there. Yeah, that's where we
Is
want.
it the fieldwork placement section or is it the mastery section we're talking about?
I think it's both.
yeah,
Okay.
it's that phrase.
It's just rephrasing it so that it's not specific to field work. It's just the coursework. There you go.
Or all of the,
Program requirements.
Yeah,
There you
I
go.
think so.
Perfect. That's
Yes.
perfect AI.
Wow,
A Ben bot.
Yes.
A Ben bot.
Ben
But
The bed bot is amazing.
Cute.
Vanessa's gonna start texting you, emailing you, Ben. Hey, that's better for me. Send.
It's so quiet. I don't like it.
it's just in awe.
Yeah.
I know.
Love it.
Can we change for at least to up to? Because if we say at
Oh,
least
yeah.
one
Yeah.
calendar year,
We're
then
gonna
we
do it
can
like
keep
for
going
3 years,
forever.
So they're already finished, they're like, I still want my support,
Yeah.
yes.
I'm not a teacher, but this is fun.
Those are the Disneyland.
Good to me.
I'll the same thing, like start over.
Wait, hold on.
Did you want to pull up your language? Because this is about orientation, right?
Oh, no.
Oh, this is different? Okay.
Well, this is embedding. This isn't. This is just to require.
This is just
it
about
to be-
standard 5 you were talking about.
Okay.
What was standard 5?
Standard 5 is
TPA implementation.
implementation of a teaching performance assessment.
I wonder what the spirit of this one was. What was the?
Maybe the idea that TPA is not embedded. I keep hearing it's embedded.
It's
Your
just-
program sponsors, it's embedded,
Mhm.
but I guess some are not embedded or feel it's not embedded. I think maybe that's where this one came from.
This recommendation is necessary because, didn't we say because not all programs properly embed or not all programs embed.
They're supposed to be, or they can't get accredited, right?
I feel like we've talked about this in
So-
other parts of this process, right?
There's
Yeah, I think so.
another,
I know this one
the
came
one
from.
five, the room 153 is improved program embedding. So I don't,
Maybe
maybe this is not for us.
or is it a shift from should to require?
Yeah,
It might be that.
Shoulds includes.
Required.
That's what it was.
Can you underline require?
Yeah.
Maybe that's, but I I don't recall.
This is necessary because the current language says should, and we wanted to make it a requirement.
Vanessa, you have that. It doesn't say that?
It doesn't say anything about,
That's what you said.
Oh,
maybe.
maybe.
probably, yeah.
Maybe that was it.
Okay, so what is it?
So if there's no language that actually has to be embedded,
Yeah.
that's.
Oh, so there's
Okay,
some
that's where it
language.
came from.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's where
Language, that, okay, in the program five.
that requires the.
Must embed, yeah.
Should we specify what this has to do with student support,
Five.
candidate support? Because this is probably gonna come up somewhere else.
Yeah, this is definitely.
So why, what's the connection here to student support? Maybe just the TV.
Just so they're, I guess, working on it as they go through the
Yeah,
program,
like
I
there's
guess,
some
yeah,
about their experience.
yeah.
I know that came up in the Ed TPA, them switching to modules so that candidates can do it throughout their program and
Yeah.
not just all at one time.
Yeah. There's no language program five that we programs. And can we take out the word should in the right there and put that programs are required to? Just because just consistent with up there. And but so that programs are required to embed within their program.
I used the word program 3 times in like 8 words.
You can just
Take
delete,
out the word program in front of standard. There's no language in standard 5 that programs are required to.
you can just delete within their program to embed the TPA.
There you go. You got rid of all those programs.
There you go, no more
There you
programs.
And we have 5 minutes, 5 minutes.
There's one, well.
This feels like the dumbest sentence I've ever written. Implementation of this recommendation is intended to address this by adding the requirement. Like, isn't it that simple?
It sounds that simple, yeah. Yeah.
That's simple.
Okay. Can we do a quick fast forward and just make sure we're comfortable with each of these?
Is there one more after this before we?
We fleshed that one out already.
Thank you.
Cool. I'll start here and go down. Just tell me when you're comfy and I'll move on. Or if to make a change, I'm happy to do that.
Okay with that.
Just walked back in. Can we go back to that first one? Patricia, are you okay with recommendation
Yeah.
1 before we?
Yeah.
Yes,
No, I thought we mentioned it a while ago.
okay. We're just going through the review of everything. Yeah. Are you good with this one?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right,
no, I think we had read through it before.
okay.
So I believe that there is in the program standards that is a requirement. Monitoring, supporting and assessing candidate progress towards meeting credential requirements.
Said candidates, but not supervisor or mentor.
Right, it says the program provides support and assistance to candidates and only retains candidates who are suited for advancement into teaching. Appropriate information is accessible to guide.
And the supervisor's the
Sorry, the
teacher.
program provides district employed supervisors a minimum of 10 hours of initial orientation to the program curriculum about effective supervision approaches such as cognitive coaching, adult learning theory, and current content specific pedagogy and instructional practices. The program ensures that the district employed supervisors remain current in their knowledge and skills for candidate supervision and program expectations.
But yeah, so it's the TPA is not included in that.
It is not. Also, one thing we might want to change, it says that the commission provides the training. Do we want it to be programs or do we want it to be commission?
What says the commission provides the training?
It's the-
Oh, no, that said the commission adds that to the.
Oh,
required
yeah,
form
yeah.
of Support. So
Oh, got it. Yeah.
maybe they added
So
to
maybe
the.
we say that the program creates or program includes instead of, and just take out commission, that the program includes.
Unless it's a change to the standard.
Specific to the TPA.
How are you all doing?
Maybe like 5 more minutes. Yeah.
5 more minutes.
We're just doing a final edit.
Love it. Good. Thank you. Good news. I do have one group finished, but
Oh, okay.
they had fewer.
Okay.
How about this one?
Thumbs up for me.
Created to study internship.
Thank you.
Internship credentials or expert group to be created to study internship and the differences.
In the intern credential. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Keep in mind, I'm gonna apologize. I'm writing these also while I'm listening, so that sometimes conflates. So this all feels weird to me.
I think the MOUs was in reference to working with the LEAs and the internships. And I don't, so in your organization for credentialing, like an MOUs exist between the university and the school district, right? Okay. I think that's what that was kind of referring to.
And I
If I go back, I actually think you were talking about giving a day off. Like if I go back that time, I think you were saying give a day off for interns to take the TPA. Was
Yeah.
the specific thing you were saying like a month and a half ago?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying that. Yay through yay, no.
Right. Talk a lot about
Would
the
require a change in the MOUs.
yes.
Yeah, that's
There you go.
nice.
Best.
Did you say requirements, Devin?
I said would require a change in the MOU.
Would require, how about we say would require changes in the MOU? That would require changes in the MOU.
What would you say? Districts, LEAs, partner networks?
Yeah, partner's good. Yeah.
Okay.
Time, I'm happy with that.
Is there a reason why oftentimes is underlined in red? I don't, that's bothering me, but,
It wants it to be one word.
oh, is it not one word?
I don't know.
I'm just asking. I just
Who knows?
He's just the bot. He
Yeah.
doesn't think. That's what he's told.
Will type. Yeah, no.
Good.
All right.
That one's fine, right? Because that was just our extra recommendation. Ben, can you go back on slide 11? I don't know why I'm in teacher mode, but can you put a period at the very last sentence? Sorry. Someone stop me. But
I was thinking about that.
I was
Yes, exactly. You always check your AI. You always check your AI.
Do I say here the commission defers to program policy choice to make it more clear?
Currently,
Yeah,
Yes.
I like that, yeah.
yeah. All right, I think that one's good. Skip that one. And then we're sharing out loud, right?
You are.
Oh, no, I thought you had volunteered yourself, Vanessa. Or we could each take a recommendation.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, because yours is the one on orientation, because I definitely don't want to read that one out loud. And that's you, dude. That's all you. I'm just kidding, although I'm in total agreement with you.
I think this one's good.
Yeah, we just spent some time on this one, right?
About the providing financial support and how the commission will receive that.
Well, we're only recommending.
Yeah, true. I don't want it to get flushed out in
Right.
And they make lots of money anyway.
The biggest thing that I saw when I watched the video recording of the commission was largely about finances and program finances specifically, where a lot of commissioners were like, programs need to incur costs. The other half was like, programs have incurred a lot of costs. Actually, they've been absorbing it for years. And like it was a debate between that. So I think this is going to be interesting when it goes.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm a little nervous
Right.
about that part.
But I do like, because I mean, unless things are a financial burden, it's kind of like getting a traffic ticket. Like no one's going to care unless you get until people get tickets. So I feel like with programs, like if they don't want to provide an extra year, you're going to work really hard at embedding the TPA and making sure students pass.
Yeah, true.
The good news is, so there's good news and bad news. The good news is, like for our program, we don't actually, it's field work, like what Devin said. So they're already in a class, there's no charge. But the bad news is state law requires us to pay a coach and a mentor. I actually end up coaching myself and I don't get paid extra hours. So we can absorb those costs. I do worry about larger programs like national or UMass or other statewide programs that are like asynchronous. I don't know how they would pay a coach and a mentor.
Yeah, or even have 200 candidates.
Right. Across the state, because they can't have someone like I'm in Sacramento. So I can just help in Sacramento and I can do that. And I feel like I'm probably the best coach for the people on extension because I feel like I probably have a better handle on the TPA, right? And so I can get them through. But if it's a statewide program and you do have to provide a coach and a mentor, all of a sudden that's just a couple people you have to pay. So the program would just absorb the cost, I assume.
So what we want to say, help me understand, what is the spirit of the financial support part? Like, what are we trying to do?
Because we're gonna have to support them for up to one additional calendar year, which means that some students will have to enroll in a class.
So not have
Oh,
to
but
enroll.
cost free, right?
cost-free to the candidate, but not to the
Candidate.
institute or not to the program. That's why
Oh.
that's the part that I'm feeling hesitation about.
But we
is
don't
that
know what that-
Somebody has to
yeah.
absorb the cost, and that's gonna be a
It doesn't
barrier.
necessarily have to be a class, but yes, you're right. I mean, if you have to pay a mentor or supervisor, then
You have to pay a mentor and a coach.
right.
Well, Devin is providing support, right? And it's cost free, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
It's his time. I mean,
It's
there's a
yeah,
cost.
it's my time, and like I said, I do it because I care about our candidates, but there aren't many people willing to do that.
Correct. Or certain programs may not be able to, like a UMass or a national. Like I said, in our program, we have the same model Devin does, right? So it's not much of a cost absorbed from us. So our program would be fine. I just don't know statewide. how that would go.
Address this by providing financial support.
Yeah.
Makes me hesitant. Can we just take that out?
Uh-huh.
Because we're still providing cost-free ongoing support, and that last part makes me think that somebody's gonna be like, well, nope, pass. And the
Oh,
final
because
part.
your financial support could mean a lot of different
Right,
things. Right.
yes,
Pay
yeah.
their rent while they're waiting to get a job. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So yeah,
But
gotcha.
having a plan that's cost-free and ongoing is different than providing financial support.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, so should we divvy up who's reading
They're
the
looking
slide?
I think we need to go.
No, we're not divvying up, okay.
I was just watching, honestly, this time.
No, but for real, who's presenting this? Should we divvy up the recommendations? I'm serious, it's not me.
Vanessa's. I thought we all agreed that Vanessa's doing it.
How many are there?
There's 8 and there's 7 and there's 7 of us.
Is there?
I'll read the last 3 or last, yeah. If
I'll-
someone else takes the first 4.
I'll take the AI side. That's what I felt like I contributed the most to. It's the smallest. But like you guys all took off with other ones.
Okay, I'll read the last 3. Someone else read the first 4.
I'll read the financial one. The cost-free one, I'll read that one.
That's part of the last 3.
That's the one that you're reading? Oh, then you do that one. I'm not fighting you. Be nice, forget you.
We have no plan.
Yeah, no plan.
We have no plan.
Sheena, don't be surprised when we call out your name, and Sheena will do this slide.
Okay. I mean, it's reading a slide, I think.
As long as it's not us, Devin.
I know. I'll be like my audio. I know. Thanks, Ben. I appreciate all